The soft hum of conversation and gentle clinking of silverware filled the air of the upscale Manhattan restaurant. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, with soft golden lighting casting a glow over polished tables, each adorned with delicate floral arrangements. Every guest appeared poised and confident, their attire reflecting wealth and sophistication. Yet, amid this elegance, Olivia Carter felt distinctly out of place. She paused nervously outside, catching her reflection in the restaurant's glossy window. Her navy blue dress was secondhand, slightly faded, and her black heels bore scuffs from years of wear. A surge of anxiety tightened her chest, but she'd promised Sophia, her best friend, she'd give this blind date a chance. Holding her phone tightly, she took a deep breath and stepped inside, scanning the room anxiously for a man named Daniel. Sophia had described him as reserved, someone who might need prompting in conversation. Olivia's heart raced as her eyes settled on a handsome man seated alone at a corner table, engrossed in his phone. He had neatly styled dark hair and wore an impeccably tailored charcoal suit, exuding an air of quiet confidence. That must be him, she thought, gathering her courage. Forcing a bright, albeit nervous, smile, she approached the table. "Hi, you must be Daniel," she said warmly. "I'm Olivia. It's nice to meet you." The man looked up, surprise flickering across his face. Ethan Grant had been waiting for a business associate who'd canceled last minute, and Olivia's sudden arrival left him momentarily speechless. He intended to correct her, but something about the sincerity in her eyes and the warmth of her nervous smile made him pause. Instead, he found himself responding gently, a faint smile forming. "Hi, Olivia. It's nice to meet you, too." Olivia settled into the chair across from Ethan, her heart still fluttering nervously. She placed her phone carefully beside her, fingers fiddling with the edge of her napkin. The soft hum of conversation around them seemed distant as she took in Ethan's calm, composed presence. "I hope you haven't been waiting long," she began, offering a shy smile. "Sophia told me you might be quiet, but don't worry, I can probably talk enough for both of us." Ethan chuckled softly, leaning back in his chair, intrigued by her genuine attempt at easing the awkwardness. He hadn't planned for this mistaken encounter, yet there was something refreshing about her sincerity that made him hesitate to reveal the mix-up just yet. "Not long at all," he replied, his eyes sparkling with a hint of amusement. "Blind dates can be awkward, can't they?" Olivia laughed lightly, relaxing just a bit more. "Oh, incredibly. Sophia has been pushing me to get out there more, but I've always found excuses. Work, life things get busy, you know?" Ethan nodded, finding her openness disarming. "I understand. What do you do for work?" Olivia blushed slightly, her eyes dropping to the table briefly. "I'm a waitress at a little cafe in Brooklyn," she admitted softly. "It's nothing fancy, but it pays the bills well mostly. What about you?" Ethan hesitated, weighing how much to reveal. "I work in tech," he offered vaguely, intrigued by how Olivia's eyes lit up with genuine curiosity rather than interest in his wealth or status. "Tech? That's fascinating," Olivia responded enthusiastically. "Like developing apps or programming? I'm terrible with computers, honestly. My laptop hates me." Ethan laughed warmly, feeling a genuine comfort in her presence. "Something like that," he replied, deciding to keep things simple. He found himself wanting to know more about her world rather than diving into his own, which was so often filled with calculated business talk and endless networking. "So, besides waiting tables, what do you enjoy doing?" Olivia's eyes brightened, her face lighting up in a way that captivated Ethan immediately. "I love art," she admitted softly, her passion evident. "Sketching, painting, anything creative, really. It's always been my escape. Someday, I hope to open my own art studio. Maybe teach classes to kids or people who need a safe space to express themselves." Ethan listened intently, charmed by her earnestness. "That's a beautiful dream," he said sincerely. "Do you have any pieces I could see?" Olivia laughed nervously, her cheeks flushing again. "Maybe someday. Most of my stuff is just piled in sketchbooks at home. It's nothing special, really." "I doubt that," Ethan interjected gently. "The way you talk about it, I'm sure your work is amazing." Olivia's eyes met his, surprised yet touched by his genuine interest. "You're not what I expected," she blurted suddenly, then quickly covered her mouth, embarrassed. "I mean, Sophia said you'd be reserved, maybe even cold. But you're so easy to talk to. Ethan raised an eyebrow, amused. Cold? Really? He teased gently. I think your friend might have been a little off. Olivia laughed softly, her nerves easing further. Definitely. Maybe she's just a bad judge of character. As the conversation flowed, Olivia shared more about her life struggles with rent, her close relationship with her mother, who was battling health issues, and her dreams of pursuing art despite the hardships. Ethan found himself captivated by her resilience, drawn to her in a way he hadn't felt in years. She wasn't like the polished socialites who populated his usual circles. Olivia was refreshingly genuine, her honesty compelling him to open up more. You mentioned your mother, Ethan prompted gently. It sounds like you're really close. Olivia's smile softened, her eyes reflecting a tender warmth. She's my rock, she confessed. She raised me alone, sacrificed so much. Now it's my turn to take care of her, you know? Her medical bills are piling up. But she never complains. She's the strongest person I know. Ethan nodded solemnly, deeply moved by her story. You must take after her then, he said earnestly. Olivia blinked in surprise, touched by his sincerity. I hope so, she replied softly, a shy smile playing on her lips. She paused, studying him thoughtfully. You know, you're really good at listening. I feel like I've been talking about myself all night. What about you? What's your life like outside of tech? Ethan hesitated again, the weight of his real identity pressing down on him. Yet, something held him back from revealing the truth. I travel a lot, he admitted carefully. Work keeps me busy. Sometimes it feels like my life revolves around meetings and deadlines. Olivia tilted her head slightly, sensing something deeper beneath his words. But what do you enjoy? She pressed gently. When you're not working, I mean. Ethan paused, surprised by the question. It had been a long time since anyone asked him that without an agenda. I enjoy reading, he admitted quietly, almost sheepishly. Historical novels mostly. And photography. Capturing moments, seeing the world through a different lens. Olivia's eyes sparkled with excitement. Photography? That's amazing. Do you ever show your work? Ethan shook his head, suddenly bashful. No, it's mostly just for me. My own way of escaping, I suppose. Olivia smiled warmly, nodding in understanding. We all need our escapes, she said softly. It keeps us sane, right? Ethan chuckled, feeling a strange, unexpected connection forming between them. Exactly, he agreed. As their conversation continued, Ethan found himself increasingly torn. He knew he'd need to tell her the truth eventually, yet the idea of disrupting this newfound bond made his stomach churn. Olivia, meanwhile, felt a warmth building inside her. Surprised at how comfortable she felt with this man she'd only just met. She glanced at her phone briefly, noticing a missed text from Sophia. Hey, where are you? Daniel said he's at table 7. Olivia dropped as she reread the message. Slowly, she looked up at Ethan, realization dawning. You're not Daniel, are you? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's smile faltered, guilt flickering in his eyes. No, I'm not, he admitted quietly. Olivia's cheeks burned with embarrassment. Oh my God, she murmured, mortified. I'm so sorry. I sat at the wrong table. She stood abruptly, her face flushed. This is so embarrassing. Ethan stood quickly, reaching out gently. Olivia, wait. But she was already backing away, her eyes filled with humiliation. I'm sorry, she repeated, grabbing her coat and hurrying out of the restaurant, leaving Ethan standing alone, staring after her, a mixture of regret and longing churning within him. Despite the unexpected twist, he knew one thing for certain. Olivia had sparked something in him that he hadn't felt in years, and he wasn't ready to let her go. Ethan sat alone in his spacious office, staring blankly at the towering New York City skyline beyond his floor-to-ceiling windows. The memory of Olivia's embarrassed face, her hurried exit from the restaurant, replayed incessantly in his mind. The mix-up had been innocent enough, yet it left him unsettled. Olivia was unlike anyone he'd met before, genuine, refreshingly honest, and entirely unaware of who he was. That anonymity had allowed him to be himself for the first time in years, and the thought of never seeing her again troubled him deeply. He knew he had to make this right, somehow. Determined, Ethan leaned forward and reached for his phone, pressing a button. Claire, he said firmly as his assistant answered. I need your help with something important. Claire entered his office moments later, holding her tablet, eyebrow raised curiously. What can I do for you, Ethan? Ethan hesitated, gathering his thoughts before speaking. I met someone last night by accident, actually. She mistook me for her blind date, and we had dinner together. But she found out I wasn't who she thought and left upset. I need to find a way to contact her again. Claire's eyes widened slightly, intrigued. Ethan rarely showed vulnerability. Do you have her full name? Any information at all? Ethan nodded. Her name is Olivia Hart. She works at a cafe in Brooklyn. That's all I know. Claire tapped a few notes on her tablet, nodding thoughtfully. It's not much, but I can try. Why the sudden interest? Ethan sighed, leaning back in his chair. She was genuine, Claire. She saw men at my bank account or status, just me. For the first time in a long while, I felt normal. I owe her an apology at least. Claire smiled knowingly. I'll see what I can find out. 2 days later, Claire returned to his office, a triumphant look on her face. I found her. She works at a place called Brooklyn Brews in Park Slope. Her shift ends around 4 p.m. most days. Ethan felt a rush of relief and gratitude. Thank you, Claire. You're a lifesaver. Claire hesitated, then spoke carefully. Ethan, if you approach her, you have to be honest. The longer you hide who you really are, the worse it will get. Ethan nodded, knowing she was right. I will be. Later that afternoon, Ethan found himself walking down a busy Brooklyn street, his heart pounding nervously. It was an unfamiliar feeling for a man accustomed to brooms and high-stakes negotiations. As he approached Brooklyn Brews, he paused outside, glimpsing Olivia through the window. She was serving customers, her bright smile lighting up the room. Taking a deep breath, he stepped inside, instantly catching her eye. Olivia froze momentarily, shock registering on her face, quickly followed by embarrassment. Ethan, she greeted cautiously as he approached the counter. What are you doing here? He offered a sheepish smile. I wanted to see you again, to apologize properly for what happened. Olivia glanced around nervously, then nodded slowly. All right, give me 5 minutes. Ethan waited patiently outside, pacing slightly until Olivia joined him. Listen, he began earnestly. I'm so sorry about the other night. I didn't mean to deceive you. You mistook me for someone else, and instead of correcting you immediately, I selfishly enjoyed the chance to talk to someone without pretense. That was wrong. Olivia crossed her arms, studying him intently. Who are you, really? Ethan took a deep breath, meeting her gaze directly. My name is Ethan Bennett. I own a tech firm, Bennett Innovations. That's who I am. But with you, for a moment, I was just Ethan. No titles, no expectations. Olivia's eyes widened in shock. You're Ethan Bennett? Like the billionaire tech guy Ethan Bennett? He nodded, embarrassed. Yes. She laughed nervously, shaking her head in disbelief. Why didn't you say something sooner? Ethan exhaled deeply. Because, for once, someone treated me like a person, not a bank account or a connection. I enjoyed it too much to give it up. But I understand if you don't want anything to do with me now. Olivia studied him, conflicted. It's not that. It's a lot to take in. Ethan nodded solemnly. I understand. But if you're willing, I'd love to make it up to you. Olivia hesitated, biting her lip. How? Ethan smiled softly. Dinner. No pretenses, no mistaken identities. Just us, honestly getting to know each other. Olivia shifted nervously, then offered a cautious nod. All right, one dinner. But no fancy places, just something simple. Ethan chuckled warmly. Deal. That evening, they met at a modest Italian trattoria in Brooklyn. Ethan arrived early, waiting anxiously until Olivia walked in, looking hesitant but beautiful in casual attire. They sat down together, an awkward silence hanging between them until Ethan broke it. I want to start fresh, he began earnestly. No lies, no secrets. Ask me anything. Olivia considered carefully, then asked softly, Why me? You could have anyone. Why pursue a waitress from Brooklyn? Ethan met her gaze sincerely. Because you're real. Because you treated me like a human being, not an opportunity. You're passionate, kind, and unlike anyone I've ever met. That's worth everything to me. Olivia smiled shyly, warmth spreading across her face. All right. Your turn. Ask me something. Ethan leaned forward, curious. Tell me more. You said it's your escape. Olivia's eyes lit up as she spoke, detailing her love for sketching, the solace it brought her, and her dreams of creating a community space for struggling artists. Ethan listened intently, captivated by her enthusiasm and determination. The evening flew by as they shared stories and dreams, slowly rebuilding the fragile trust damaged by their earlier misunderstanding. As they parted ways later that night, Ethan took Olivia's hand gently. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Olivia squeezed his hand softly. Everyone deserves one. But no more secrets, okay? Ethan smiled earnestly. I promise. He watched her walk away, his heart lighter than it had been in years. This unexpected encounter had changed something deep within him. Olivia had reawakened a longing for authenticity, for genuine connection. For the first time in a long time, Ethan felt truly hopeful, determined not to waste this rare opportunity to build something real with someone extraordinary. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and Olivia saw each other regularly, their connection growing stronger with each encounter. Their meetings were simple and sincere, often taking place at quiet coffee shops, cozy diners, or peaceful strolls through Brooklyn's picturesque parks. Each interaction felt more genuine than the last, built on honesty, trust, and mutual curiosity. For Ethan, this newfound simplicity was liberating. Olivia didn't care about his wealth or his business empire. She valued the person behind it all. This authenticity allowed Ethan to lower his guard, gradually showing a side of himself few others had ever seen. One crisp autumn afternoon, Ethan surprised Olivia at the end of her shift, greeting her with a warm smile and 2 cups of steaming coffee. Thought you could use a pick-me-up, he said gently, handing her the cup. Olivia's eyes sparkled with appreciation as she accepted the coffee. You have perfect timing, she laughed softly. Long day? Ethan asked sympathetically. Olivia nodded, sipping her drink gratefully. Busy but good. I'm just tired. Thank you for this. Ethan offered his arm, and they walked together toward a nearby park, the leaves crunching beneath their feet. Sitting on a secluded bench, Olivia gazed out over the tranquil pond. I still can't quite wrap my head around this, she confessed, glancing at Ethan with a soft smile. Around what? He asked, intrigued. You, she replied candidly. Us. It still feels a bit surreal, spending time with someone like you. Ethan chuckled lightly, brushing his hand over hers reassuringly. Someone like me? Olivia blushed, shyly looking away. You know what I mean, someone who's built an empire, who runs in different circles. Ethan gently turned her face back to his, meeting her gaze earnestly. Olivia, those things don't matter here. When I'm with you, I feel more myself than I ever have. You're the one who makes this feel real. Olivia's expression softened, the vulnerability in his words touching her deeply. Their bond strengthened further as they began sharing more personal parts of their lives. Ethan opened up about the pressures he faced running a tech conglomerate, the isolation he often felt despite his success. People assume having money means life is easy, he confessed one evening over dinner. But it can be incredibly lonely. Everyone wants something from you, and genuine connections are rare. Olivia listened carefully, reaching across the table to take his hand comfortingly. That sounds exhausting, she murmured softly. It is, Ethan admitted. But with you, it's different. You've never asked me for anything. You just see me. Olivia squeezed his hand gently. That's because I care about who you are, Ethan, not what you have. In return, Olivia shared stories of her childhood, her close relationship with her mother, and her unwavering love for art. Drawing was always my escape, she explained during one of their long walks. Whenever things got hard, I'd pick up a pencil and lose myself in sketches. It made me feel safe. Ethan admired her strength and resilience, deeply moved by her passion. Inspired by her dedication, he began to quietly support her dreams, often leaving anonymous tips at the cafe, knowing the extra money would help her buy art supplies. Olivia never suspected a thing, attributing the unexpected generosity to fate's kindness. One rainy evening, Olivia invited Ethan to her modest apartment for a home-cooked meal. Though initially nervous about welcoming him into her small, humble space, she was reassured by Ethan's genuine enthusiasm. When he arrived, he greeted her with flowers and a warm embrace, instantly putting her at ease. As Olivia cooked, Ethan watched her affectionately, enjoying the simple intimacy of the moment. They shared laughter and easy conversation, and the distance between their worlds felt irrelevant. After dinner, they sat close together on her worn couch, flipping through her sketchbooks. Ethan marveled at the beauty of her work, the raw emotion in each piece touching him deeply. "These are incredible," he whispered, awestruck. "You have an amazing gift, Olivia." She blushed modestly, grateful for his heartfelt praise. "Thank you. It means a lot coming from you." Their relationship deepened further as Ethan introduced Olivia to some of his closest friends at a casual gathering. Initially, she felt nervous, intimidated by their elegance and sophistication. Yet Ethan stood firmly by her side, proudly introducing her as his partner. His unwavering support gave her confidence, allowing her to connect genuinely with those around her. By evening's end, Olivia had won over his friends with her warmth and authenticity. "She's wonderful, Ethan," his longtime friend Daniel remarked privately. "You're lucky to have found someone so real." Ethan nodded appreciatively. "I know, she's everything." Weeks turned into months, and their bond blossomed into something truly special. They found comfort in each other's presence, their differences complementing one another beautifully. Ethan admired Olivia's compassion, humility, and unwavering strength. Olivia cherished Ethan's kindness, vulnerability, and genuine respect for her dreams. Together, they discovered joy in simple, moments-quiet conversations, shared meals, leisurely walks through Brooklyn's charming streets. One evening, as they stood on a rooftop overlooking the city lights, Ethan wrapped his arms around Olivia from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "You know," he murmured softly, "I never thought I'd find someone like you." Olivia leaned back into him, smiling gently. "And I never expected someone like you would come into my life either. But I'm glad you did." Ethan turned her gently to face him, his eyes filled with affection. "You've changed everything for me, Olivia. You've shown me what's truly important. I can't imagine my life without you now." Olivia felt her heart swell with emotion, meeting his gaze tenderly. "I feel the same way. You make me happier than I ever thought possible." In that moment, surrounded by the city's twinkling lights, their connection felt unbreakable. They had built their relationship on honesty, mutual respect, and a shared desire for genuine love. The journey hadn't been without challenges, but each obstacle had only strengthened their bond. Ethan and Olivia knew their worlds were vastly different, yet they'd found common ground in their hearts, a foundation strong enough to withstand anything. As they walked hand in hand back inside, they both realized something profound. What had started as an accidental meeting had become the most important relationship of their lives. Together, they were unstoppable, their love rooted firmly in authenticity, trust, and the courage to embrace the unexpected. Olivia had always sensed that Ethan was hiding something, though she struggled to pinpoint exactly what. There were small clues, moments when his phone buzzed with urgency, the occasional slip of his perfectly controlled demeanor, and the hesitant pauses before he answered questions about his work. She never pressed, assuming he would share in his own time. Still, a faint unease lingered, always hovering at the edge of her mind. Olivia valued honesty above all else, and the thought of secrets between them unsettled her deeply. She tried to dismiss her doubts, but they continued to resurface, persistent and nagging. One crisp afternoon, Olivia was organizing supplies in the cafe when a familiar name caught her eye on the front page of a discarded newspaper left by a customer. There, in bold print, was a photograph of Ethan under a headline that read, "Ethan Harrington, billionaire CEO, expands tech empire." Her heart lurched as she quickly scanned the article, disbelief clouding her thoughts. Each word hit like a physical blow, unraveling the picture she had carefully constructed of the man she thought she knew. CEO of Harrington Tech, one of America's youngest billionaires, leading figure in tech innovation, the revelations left her breathless, disoriented, and hurt. Clutching the paper tightly, she sank onto a nearby stool, her mind spinning with questions. Why hadn't Ethan told her the truth? Why had he allowed her to believe he was simply an entrepreneur running a modest startup? A mix of confusion and betrayal surged through her. Olivia's thoughts raced, replaying every conversation they'd ever had, searching for moments when she might have missed signs. Suddenly, his hesitation, his vague answers, and his reluctance to discuss work in detail made painful sense. She felt foolish for trusting him so completely, angry at herself for being blind, and deeply wounded by his deception. Determined to confront Ethan directly, Olivia gathered her courage and dialed his number with trembling fingers. When he answered, his warm voice sent an unexpected pang through her heart, reminding her of how deeply she cared for him, despite her anger. "Ethan," she said, her tone cold and strained. "We need to talk. Now." There was a pause on his end, the surprise in his silence palpable. "Olivia? What's wrong?" he asked cautiously. "Just meet me at my apartment," she replied tersely, before ending the call abruptly. The wait for Ethan's arrival was agonizing. Olivia paced her small apartment, her thoughts churning with accusations, demands for answers, and the hurt that gnawed at her heart. When the knock finally came at her door, she steadied herself before opening it. Ethan stood there, concern etched on his face. "Olivia, what's going on?" he asked softly, stepping inside. She handed him the newspaper without a word, watching his face closely for any hint of guilt or remorse. His expression shifted from confusion to dawning realization, and finally to a deep, unmistakable regret. "Olivia," he began carefully, his voice thick with emotion, "I can explain." She crossed her arms defensively, anger flaring in her eyes. "Explain? Explain why you lied to me. Why you let me believe you were someone else entirely." Ethan took a step toward her, but stopped when she instinctively moved back. His eyes softened with sorrow. "I didn't mean to deceive you," he pleaded. "When we first met, I liked that you didn't know who I was. For the first time, someone saw me Ethan, the man at Ethan Harrington, the billionaire CEO. I didn't want to lose that." Olivia shook her head bitterly. "So you thought lying was better? Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Or that it wouldn't matter?" Ethan's shoulders sagged with regret. "No, I knew it would come out eventually," he admitted, his voice strained. "I was just afraid that telling you the truth would change everything. I didn't want you to see me differently or think I was using my money to impress you. You're the first person who's cared about me for who I am, not what I have." His words tugged at Olivia's heart, but the pain of betrayal still burned too brightly. "But you built this relationship on a lie, Ethan," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I trusted you completely. How can I ever trust you again?" Ethan's eyes filled with remorse as he reached out hesitantly, then dropped his hand, knowing he'd lost the right to comfort her. "Olivia, everything I felt, everything I said was real. My feelings for you are genuine. Please believe that." Olivia turned away, fighting tears. "But I don't even know who you really are," she said brokenly. "All this time, I thought we were building something honest and true. But it was just an illusion." Ethan's voice cracked as he replied, "It wasn't an illusion. Everything between us is real, Olivia. My mistake was thinking I could separate who I am from what I've built. But I know now that I was wrong. You deserved the truth from the beginning. And I was selfish because I didn't want to risk losing you." For several agonizing moments, silence hung heavily between them. Olivia stared out the window, the ache in her chest overwhelming. Ethan stood quietly behind her, his breathing unsteady, waiting anxiously for her response. Finally, she turned back to face him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I don't know if I can do this, Ethan," she whispered softly. "I need time to think, to decide if I can forgive you." Ethan swallowed hard, nodding slowly. "I understand," he murmured painfully. "I'll respect whatever decision you make. But please, don't doubt how deeply I care about you. I'm so sorry I hurt you, Olivia." With one last lingering look, he turned toward the door, his posture heavy with grief and regret. Olivia watched him go, her heart aching with conflicting emotions. She wanted desperately to believe in the love they had shared, but the shadow of betrayal clouded everything. Alone, she sat heavily on her couch, her thoughts a tangled web of confusion and heartache. She replayed Ethan's words over and over, searching for a path forward, torn between the love she still felt and the trust that had been shattered. Olivia knew that forgiveness wouldn't come easily, if it came at all. But beneath the hurt, a small flicker of hope remained. Perhaps, with time and honesty, they could rebuild what had been broken, stronger and more genuine than before. But for now, all she could do was sit in the painful reality of discovering the truth she never expected. In the days following Olivia's painful discovery, she found herself in a turmoil of emotions, anger, hurt, and confusion, all battling with the love that still lingered stubbornly in her heart. The initial sting of Ethan's deception had subsided slightly, leaving behind a dull ache that haunted her thoughts day and night. Olivia tried to distract herself with work at the cafe, but every quiet moment was filled with memories of Ethan's smile, his laughter, and the genuine care he had shown her. Despite her best efforts, she couldn't erase the good memories, nor the warmth they still evoked deep within her. Ethan respected Olivia's request for space, though it was clear the separation weighed heavily on him as well. He struggled to concentrate at work, his thoughts consumed by guilt and longing. It felt as though his world had lost color without her presence. Determined to prove himself worthy of her forgiveness, Ethan began to change, stepping away from the insulated world of his wealth and status. He redirected his energy into meaningful actions, channeling his resources into causes that reflected Olivia's values, quietly supporting community projects, youth programs, and local artists. Meanwhile, Olivia grappled with her conflicting feelings. She wanted to forgive Ethan, but trust wasn't easily repaired. Her best friend, Mia, offered gentle counsel, reminding Olivia that mistakes didn't have to define relationships forever. People stumble, Mia advised softly one evening as they sat together on Olivia's balcony, sipping tea. What truly matters is how they pick themselves up afterward. If Ethan is truly sorry and willing to change, maybe there's a chance for you two. Olivia listened carefully, letting Mia's words sink in. Perhaps forgiveness wasn't impossible, but she knew it would take time. Weeks passed, each day softening Olivia's pain a little more, allowing room for clarity. One quiet afternoon, a courier delivered a beautifully wrapped package to the cafe. Curious, Olivia carefully unwrapped it, revealing a handmade leather-bound journal. A note, written in Ethan's unmistakable handwriting, accompanied the gift. It read, "Olivia, I've written down every truth, every fear, and every hope I ever withheld from you. I want you to know the real me, flaws and all. Please know that I'm not asking you to forgive me today, but I hope that one day you'll give me a chance to prove how much I truly love you." With trembling hands, Olivia opened the journal. Its pages were filled with Ethan's most vulnerable thoughts, struggles with the weight of his family's expectations, his fears of never being seen beyond his wealth, and his deep yearning for genuine connection. As Olivia read, tears blurred her vision. Ethan had bared his soul, laying every truth at her feet. The gesture moved her deeply, chipping away at the wall she had built around her heart. That night, Olivia found herself unable to sleep. Her thoughts kept returning to Ethan's heartfelt words and the sincerity behind them. Olivia smiled gently, leaning into his embrace. Sometimes the wrong turns bring us exactly where we need to be. They shared a tender kiss, a promise of a future built on honesty and forgiveness. As they walked away, surrounded by the joyful sounds of the community they nurtured, they knew their love had been strengthened, not weakened, by the challenges they had overcome. It was a new beginning, a beautiful ending to a story of second chances, proving that love, when genuine, can heal even the deepest wounds. Ethan and Olivia's story teaches a profound lesson about honesty, forgiveness, and embracing second chances. In 2025, our lives are often fast-paced and digitally driven, sometimes causing genuine connections to get lost in superficial interactions. Their experience reminds us that true relationships thrive on trust and authenticity, not appearances or status. Ethan's initial dishonesty, though born from fear, nearly cost him the most meaningful connection of his life. Olivia's capacity to forgive shows that healing comes when we open our hearts to understanding and compassion, even when it feels difficult. Applying this lesson today means recognizing the importance of genuine communication in a world increasingly filtered through screens. Instead of presenting a curated version of ourselves, we must have the courage to be vulnerable and truthful. Likewise, offering forgiveness is more crucial than ever, as misunderstandings can escalate quickly in our connected, yet divided digital age. By embodying these values in 2025, we can foster deeper, more meaningful relationships both personally and professionally. Ethan and Olivia show us that authenticity, coupled with the courage to forgive, creates foundations strong enough to withstand life's challenges. Embracing this wisdom can transform our interactions, enabling us to build communities based on empathy, trust, and mutual support.